guys, welcome back to Food Prep Guide. We are back in the kitchen today with another homemade tutorial of things that we are going to make homemade alternatives for things that we would typically buy at the grocery store. This has been a goal of mine for a long time, is to stop buying salad dressing. Now I am self-admittedly am a fanatic of Olive Garden's Italian dressing, so I think it's going to be a little hard to pull me away from that. But I have been testing recipes for a while now, and I've already found one. It reminds me of the Green Goddess dressing from Panera. It is fantastic. That's going to be in this video as well. But I've got a few more that I'm testing, and I think I'm going to be able to get away from all the store-bought salad dressings. So I wanted to bring you along as I make up a batch for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to be rotating through 5 dressings to try to figure out what I like, what the rest of my family likes, so that I can make those 1 or 2 and just make a much larger size in bulk so that I don't have to make them every week like I'm doing now. So 5 homemade salad dressings are coming your way. Let's get started. Welcome to Food Prep Guide. My name is Jordan. I'm a homeschooling mom to 3, living on 3 beautiful acres with my wonderful husband. A health crisis forced our family to change the way we think about food. Unfortunately, it also put us in financial hardship. Thankfully, the solution to both challenges was the same: to live off the land as much as possible. For us, that means growing a garden, preserving the harvest, raising chickens, and cooking from scratch. It's definitely a family affair. And friends, too. Meet Stacy. Researcher, author, and lifelong learner, she entered the world of food preservation in the crazy days of 2020. She joined a gleaning co-op, and a local grocer offered her clearance produce in bulk, and so the adventure began. Together, we're reclaiming the old ways of food stewardship and teaching them to the next generation. If there's one thing you should know about us, it's that we love Jesus and seek to steward his blessings wisely. Our table always has room for one more. So y'all come join us. Okay, recipe number 1, we're going to start with our classic balsamic vinaigrette. This Vitamix container, it looks a little janky, but it has been about 10 years of being stained with tomato-based soups. So I promise you it's clean, even though it looks a little questionable. Okay, balsamic vinegar. We're going to start with 1 cup of olive oil. With any of the salad dressings that we make today, you can use any type of oil that you want. Let's say you don't like olive oil, so you can swap that out for vegetable oil or avocado oil, anything like that. The oils are completely up to you. So 1 cup of olive oil. Next, we're going to do 5 teaspoons of minced garlic. I'm going to go ahead and use this minced garlic in water, but you can certainly use the dried kind too. You would just need to let it sit in your refrigerator for several hours before enjoying, because it would take some time for that minced garlic to kind of rehydrate a little bit. So we need 5 teaspoons of this. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Next, the recipe calls for an 1/8 cup of sliced yellow onion, and that is what I used last time, but I just want to go ahead and get rid of this jar of diced white onions. It's my last one from this last batch of onions that we got. So what I'm going to do is these are freeze dried, so they crush really, really easily. So I'm just going to take about a handful and eyeball it and crush it. And it will, since it's freeze dried, it'll rehydrate nicely in the liquid-based ingredients for this recipe. Okay, so after that, we need 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. This is my favorite brand. It's just from Aldi's, nothing fancy, but they have a great flavor at a pretty good price. So 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. Can't remember if I mentioned it, but all the recipes we're making today, all you need is your blender. Okay, 2 teaspoons of black pepper. Where is my teaspoon? There it is. 2 teaspoons of black pepper. Let me dry that off real quick. Had that minced garlic on it. I'm going to do a scant 2 teaspoons because I don't want it to be too peppery. If you like a kick in your balsamic vinaigrette dressing, then just go ahead and do the full 2 teaspoons. Okay, 1 tablespoon of oregano. And anytime something calls for oregano, we don't buy just oregano. I just go ahead and stock Italian blend. So anytime something calls for oregano, I just go ahead and put in the Italian blend. We need 1 tablespoon of oregano or Italian seasoning. Next, we need 1 teaspoon of dried parsley. I'm just going to get a little pinch here. This is our homegrown, and I'm just going to crush it up just a little bit to about a teaspoon of parsley. And then I'm going to do the same thing with basil, but we're going to do a tablespoon of basil. My basil, I'm not really sure what happened. I guess I didn't chop it up as much as I thought I did, as I would normally do. But my basil and parsley ended up being in kind of large chunks this year. So I kind of need to crush it with my fingers whenever I'm going to use it. Okay, to that we need a tablespoon of grated Parmesan cheese. I don't have any fresh Parmesan cheese, so I'm going to be using just the not so healthy stuff in the green jar. But we're going to do a tablespoon of that. Bear in mind that if you are going to be using olive oil for any of these salad dressings, it will solidify in the fridge. So whenever you go to use it, you'll want to set it out at room temperature for about an hour before you are needing to serve your salad or enjoy your salad. And that's true for anything that is olive oil based. Okay, let's see, 1 tablespoon of red wine vinegar, and that's it. And give it a good shake. This again is another favorite of mine from Thrive Market online, but that's just because Aldi's was out last time. I would have gotten it from there if they had some. Aldi's red wine vinegar and balsamic vinegar is fantastic. But this Thrive Market brand is good too. Okay, that is it. We're going to blend and pour it in the jar. Okay, and there is our balsamic vinaigrette. You can see it makes about 1 cup's worth, so you can double, triple, quadruple, whatever you need to do to get the amount that you need. This recipe yields about 1 cup of balsamic vinaigrette. Okay, this next recipe is a green goddess salad dressing. Now the recipe that I adapted this from actually called it creamy Italian, but I am changing the name because it tastes just like Panera's green goddess salad. Their salad dressing is slightly sweeter and I think a little bit more earthy than this one. But it has those same types of flavors in them, and it is fantastic. And what makes it green is fresh green onions. These are just bunching onions that I ran out and got from the garden real quick. This is what makes the recipe. So fresh green onions is what you want for this recipe. Okay, let's start with 1 cup of mayonnaise. Instead of any vinegars or oils or anything like that, actually there's a little bit of vinegar in here, but instead of any oils, this recipe uses mayonnaise as its base. So 1 cup of mayonnaise. To that, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of the red wine vinegar. To that, we're going to add 3/4 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. I'm just going to use a teaspoon and go a little light on it. About like that. Next, we need a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. I think, yep, garlic powder. 1/4 teaspoon. Where is my 1/4 teaspoon? There it is. 1/4 teaspoon garlic powder. Next, we need a tablespoon of sugar. To that, we'll add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I prefer to use my Celtic sea salt in this recipe, but I am out, so I'm just going to be using my pink Himalayan salt. You can use whatever salt you want. I think I forgot to get that out. I did. Okay, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And to that, we'll add 1/8 of a teaspoon of pepper. I'm just going to use my 1/4 teaspoon and do about half for 1/8 teaspoon of pepper. And then next is going to be 7 of your green onions. I'm just going to break those apart into here. And that's it, y'all. Easy peasy. Let's get this blended up. Okay, this is the green goddess salad dressing. You can see why it's called that. Just spatula out of there. This one is nice and thick. I'll get all that out in just a second. So here's what it looks like. Nice and thick. You can see the consistency of it. The color, again, this is about 1 cup of salad dressing. Recipe number 3 is a French dressing, and we're going to start with 1 cup of vegetable oil. I know, not the healthiest, so you can absolutely swap this out for something like avocado oil or even olive oil, although I've tried it with olive oil and it does not taste good with olive oil. So you might want to go the avocado oil route if that's what you have. I just don't have any. So 1 cup of that. 3/4 cup of ketchup. I'm just going to use my 1 cup measuring cup and eyeball 3/4 of ketchup. Okay. 3/4 cup ketchup. And to that, we will add 1/2 cup of vinegar, just plain white distilled vinegar. Plain white distilled vinegar, 1/2 cup of that. And to that, we'll add 1/2 cup of sugar. Let me dry out this measuring cup real quick. Okay, 1/2 cup of sugar. Okay, so the recipe calls for separate measurements of onion salt and garlic powder. I actually make an onion salt garlic, an onion garlic salt. That's all kind of mixed together. So I will do 1 full teaspoon of this mixture, but if you just want to separate it, it would be 1/2 teaspoon of onion salt and 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. I'm just going to do 1 teaspoon of this garlic onion salt. Next is 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, give that a good shake. This is not the highest quality lemon juice. I don't necessarily recommend it. I like the Santa Cruz brand of lemon juice. Just again, don't have any, so using what I got. Next, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of mustard. Actually, I think this is brand new. I need to open it. Yep. So 2 tablespoons of mustard. Whoops, I need to shake it up first. I'm going to do a heaping since I didn't get a whole lot of mustard in that first one. And mustard is one of the ingredients that really make French dressing French dressing. Okay, next we're going to do 1 tablespoon of chili powder. This is another one that I kind of do a little of my own thing on. Whoops. Sorry. Okay, so I'd like to use, chili powder is really strong to me, and this French dressing, I'm hoping to serve it to my whole family, which includes some younger children. And so what I'm going to actually use is taco seasoning. Our taco seasoning does have a good bit of chili powder in it, but it's also still mild and not super, super strong flavored. So you can do a tablespoon of chili powder, but I'm going to use a tablespoon of taco seasoning. And that is it. Let's get to blending. This is the French dressing. This recipe yields more than a cup. It is right at a pint. I'm going to have just a little bit that I'm going to be putting in a half pint for maybe tomorrow's salad. But so this recipe is French dressing, and it yields a full pint. Recipe number 4 is going to be the classic ranch dressing. We're going to start with 1½ cups of mayonnaise. Got 1 cup here. And I was getting ready to measure out another ½ cup, and I realized that about ½ cup is all I have left in my mayonnaise container. So I'm just going to scrape out the rest of my mayonnaise, but just know that the measurement is 1½ cups. Okay, and to that we're going to add ½ cup of sour cream. ½ cup of sour cream. And then we need a ¼ cup of milk. I'm just going to use my ½ cup measuring cup and eyeball half of it. So 1/4 cup of milk. You can also use heavy cream or buttermilk. Any of those options would work. I don't buy or stock heavy cream or buttermilk, so I just use regular milk. If I wanted more of a buttermilk flavor, I would add a splash of vinegar to the milk, let it sit for about 10 minutes, and then it's going to have a very buttermilky flavor. So after that, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And to that, we'll add ½ teaspoon of garlic powder. So we have garlic powder, and we need ½ teaspoon. And then we need ½ teaspoon of dill weed. And I tell you what, between the dill pickles and all of your homemade ranch type dressings or mixtures that you might mix into sour cream for a casserole or something like that, it is worth it to grow your own dill because it's a lot more flavorful than what you can get at the store. I'm actually going to do a heaping ½ teaspoon of this because dill is what really makes ranch taste like ranch. And that's it. Let's blend. Here is our classic ranch dressing. I'll scrape all the rest of that out in a minute. Y'all don't have to watch that. So here is this recipe. As you can see, makes a full pint of ranch dressing. I'll give you a close up. You can see all that dill in there. Looks just like type of ranch you get at the store. It's a little slightly bit more liquidy than what you get at the store. If you were to use heavy cream, I think that would take care of that, but I just always use milk and the consistency is just fine for us. So 1 pint of ranch dressing. This last recipe, number 5, is going to be the classic Italian dressing. So to start, we need 1/3 cup of red wine vinegar. This is going to be another olive oil based recipe that is going to solidify in the fridge. So you'll need to set it out before you want to enjoy it, or switch to something like vegetable oil or avocado oil. Next is 1/2 cup of olive oil. To that, we'll add 1½ teaspoon of Dijon mustard, and I'm just going to do a very heaping teaspoon, but the measurement is 1½ teaspoons. Next is 3/4 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. 1, 2, and 3. We need another 3/4 teaspoon of sugar. I'm using 1/4 teaspoon, so 1, 2, and 3. Next is 1/2 teaspoon of salt. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I really need to refill my little shaker here. I guess it doesn't matter if I use one of those clumped up pieces because it's going in the blender anyway. I made the mistake of vacuum sealing my salt about 2 years ago. Still dealing with the clumps from that. Okay, 1/8 teaspoon of pepper. I'm going to use my 1/4 teaspoon and just go about half. And last but not least, it's just a little sprinkle of Parmesan. You could do about 1/8 cup. I'm just gonna sprinkle in just a little bit. And that's it. Let's blend. Here is our Italian dressing. This recipe only makes about 1 cup, so it'll store nicely in a 1/2 pint jar. Here's a close-up picture. Homemade Italian dressing. Okay, y'all, that is it. 5 homemade salad dressings. I hope this helps you chip away at that grocery budget, get it down as low as possible by making more things homemade. We have a video on homemade spices. If you haven't checked that out, pop that up on the screen somewhere right around there, and we will see you. Oh, I will do my best to get these printed up for you in a printable format up on the blog as soon as possible. When that's available, it'll be in the description box below, all the printable recipes for these salad dressings. Almost forgot. Okay, we'll see y'all next time. Bye.